Well, hello everyone. Sorry about the slight delay this afternoon, but welcome to This Week in Your Daily Star Trek News. Today is Sunday, February 6th, 2022. Coming up on the show today, we've got a new preview of the upcoming Raffi and Seven audio drama, No Man's Land. The first look images of Picard Season 2, some new key art for Strange New Worlds, and there's been a few TCA announcements for Section 31 and Starfleet Academy. My name is Alison Pitt, and today's show is supported by people like you through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/Daily Star Trek News. Now, if you are listening to me on the podcast, as per usual, I would like to invite you over to our YouTube live stream. We do this every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Excuse me. I cover the news like you hear today. We also stick around for show and tell and the results of today's poll, which I'll tell you about in a second. And also for the live stream folks, after the show ends, we also chat for a little bit. It's kind of fun. So it would be nice to see you over there if you're not already part of that crew. Now, before we get going, I do just want to remind you all that everything that I talk about on today's show is also available on our website at dailystartreknews.com. We've got all the links to the original sources, more pictures, more videos. We've got the week's events listing and history. Occasionally we get some trivia on there as well and some other fun stuff. So please go and check it out. It's dailystartreknews.com, and you can also sign up for our daily newsletter there as well. Okay, so today's poll is inspired by a couple of different things, actually. So we've got this new audio drama that's coming out towards the end of the month with Raffi and Seven. But also, if you happen to be watching Star Trek Prodigy, there's some very happy shippers at the end of Star Trek Prodigy. That's all I will say. Anyway, so today's poll is asking you guys what you think the next ship should be that they make into an audio drama. So we've got ship being like shippers, like relationships, right? Kind of. So option number one is Janeway and Chakotay. That's the big one, right? Option number two is Crusher and Picard. Option number three, Kirk and Spock. They probably have made an audio drama about them already, but we're talking the next one for Simon and Schuster. And the final one, of course, I had to throw an actual ship in there, the USS Reliant, because it's so gosh darn dramatic. Also, if you haven't been paying attention on Twitter, I've been asking the Star Trek community what you think is the most dramatic or over dramatic starship. There's some kind of funny answers in there, so go check that out. It's on Twitter at Daily Trek News. Go and join in the conversation over there. Anyway, right. So that poll is here in the chat on YouTube. It's also over on Twitter at Daily Trek News. We'll check out the results of the poll at the end of the show today. Right. So without further ado, let's let's get into the news. And it's not every week that we get like an entire show that's all about new stuff that's coming up, and that's pretty much what today's show is all about. So that's really exciting, I think. Let's start off with the Raffi and Seven audio drama. Of course, I think we told you about it a couple of weeks ago. It's basically following the events of Star Trek Picard Season 1. Raffi and Seven team up for an adventure. According to the excerpt from Simon and Schuster, they've said, as Raffi and Seven touch down on the planet Ebla, expecting a bloodbath with the Romulan warlord Rhinin, but instead realizing the Romulans are really there to abduct someone Seven knows. Ooh. Anyway, there's a clip from the audio drama that they published this week on YouTube. It's unlisted, so if you want to go and listen to it, go to dailystartreknews.com. I'll also leave a link in the show notes for this episode to that story, and then you can flip over to YouTube and you can have a listen to what that's going to sound like. It's about 1.5 minutes long, so it's not long. But it's very good. It's not like an audiobook, it's an audio drama. So I don't know if that's what you're into, but you can hear what I mean by that if you go and listen to the clip. And of course, you can pre-order that now on Amazon, and it's expected to come out on February 22nd, so towards the end of this month. And if you're trying to figure out, like, if you've been living under a rock and you don't know about Raffi and Seven and their sort of budding relationship, you can catch up on that in Star Trek Picard season 1, which is on Paramount Plus, and of course, Star Trek Picard season 2 is coming up in March. All right. So I was talking about Star Trek Picard. We've got this sort of audio drama that's in between, which is really interesting, by the way. Excuse me, and bear with me while I go on a slight tangent. If you remember back before Star Trek Picard season 1 happened, we had two things. We had a short treks called Children of Mars, and we also had the Star Trek Picard countdown series of comic books. That was funny, actually. I'll tell that story some other time, but it was meant to finish before Picard premiered, and then it didn't quite finish. So there were some spoilers that you kind of anyway, it doesn't matter. They basically what they're doing is filling the time between these seasons with other media. And so they're doing that here where we're in between or we're getting excited for season 2 of Star Trek Picard, and they're putting out an audio drama with one of the biggest moments from season 1, which is, of course, Raffi and Seven kind of holding hands and getting together. They're not the only ones who have done this. They've done this with the Orville as well. The Dark Horse Orville comics come out as like half seasons in between the seasons of the Orville as well. I'm going to go on a slight tangent off my tangent. The Orville has been delayed until June of next year. We'll do that story coming up this week. But yeah, the Orville has been delayed. It was supposed to come out, I think, in March, and now it's not going to. Anyway, back to, right. So we were talking about the Orville. We were talking about, yes, the media in between the tentpole events of the seasons. They're doing that here kind of with No Man's Land in between Picard season 1 and season 2. Anyway, back to Picard season 2, which is coming out in March. They've actually released promotional photos of the first 2 episodes. Now, if you happen to follow us, if you happen to subscribe to our newsletter, or if you are on the web often, you'll know that we publish the sort of like press promotional photos every week of the new upcoming episodes. And that usually comes out, like, you'll probably expect to see Prodigy 1's coming out on Tuesday. It's very cool that they're doing this well in advance. They're clearly trying to ramp up the promotional activity for Star Trek Picard, which is coming out, like I said, in March. But you can see some of that for yourself to start off with. And what's really exciting, to me at least, we've got the first 2 episodes, and they're not pulling their punches. Not going to make you wait for ages to get to the stuff you want to see. Because the first 2 episodes, we've got pictures of Guinan, we've got pictures of Q. And in the second episode, you can see clearly that they've already done whatever the thing is that they're going to do, because Seven does not have her eyepiece. So go check those out. Like I said, they're on the web. Go to dailystartreknews.com and check out that article. I'll leave a link in the show notes here for you to go and look at those. This is a downside of doing this type of live stream, because I actually can't show you the pictures right now. One of these days I will figure that out. But anyway, go and check them out and get excited. Set your calendars or whatever your reminder. March 3rd, Star Trek Picard season 2 is coming out. Okay. So talking about Star Trek Picard, the other big event that happened this week that's looking forward to what's coming up in Star Trek is the TCAs. Now, if you've never heard of the TCAs, that's fine. It's kind of an industry thing. It's a Television Critics Association, and they do 2 tours a year, I think. I can never keep it straight. Anyway, there's inevitably a Star Trek panel of some kind at the event, and this year was no different. There was actually a Paramount Plus panel as well. And of course, Star Trek being a flagship franchise for Paramount Plus, they did talk about it in a couple of different places. So coming out of the TCA, we actually had, how do I organize this? There's one thing we were expecting and 2 things we were not quite expecting. So let's start with the one we were expecting, which was new artwork for Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which is coming out in May, hot on the heels of Picard, which should finish around the time that Strange New Worlds is starting. The new key art that they've released is in the form of a poster, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's got a picture of a man on horseback, which we did confirm was Captain Pike. And you've got the Enterprise and the planets in the background. It's beautiful. And the tagline, of course, is "The frontier is waiting." No particularly new news about Strange New Worlds. Let's see. Alex Kurtzman talked to Decider.com, I think. Oh, no, no, no. I apologize. I think Alex Kurtzman said this in his panel. He said our show speaks to the final frontier when it was at its infancy. And so they're kind of drawing that parallel between the cowboy and Strange New Worlds, which I think we expected. And we all know Captain Pike is into his horses. So that's what that is. Like I said, not a lot of new news, but you can go and see the picture for yourself. It's beautiful. And it sounds like they'll start to ramp up some of that promotional stuff too. So maybe we'll get to see some new teasers or something soon. We'll see. So that was kind of what we were expecting. The two that we weren't really expecting was Section 31 and my personal favorite, Starfleet Academy. We'll come on to Starfleet Academy in a second. But the Section 31 news is actually really great. So again, this was at the TCAs and they had a specific panel for Paramount Plus. In that, Nicole Clemens, who's the president of scripted series on Paramount Plus, she said, yes, we are still in development on Section 31, so there will be more news on that soon. Later, Alex Kurtzman also said that he was working on the series, so it's being worked on. Now, we don't know what that means, but that's good. It's that it's sort of back on the schedule and back being talked about by executives. That's really important. If you remember last year, we actually had a former executive at Paramount Plus who said that we were not going to be getting Section 31 until one of the other ones goes off the air. That person is no longer with Viacom CBS, but it's so I've kind of assumed that that sentiment is maybe no longer valid, but of course we don't know. Needless to say, it's encouraging that they're talking about it in something like the TCAs again, because I think that's a show that has a lot of legs, especially with Michelle Yeoh attached. So anyway, so Section 31 still on the cards, which is wonderful. And then, so this has not come straight from TCAs, but kind of from TCAs, is that the Starfleet Academy series is probably happening, or it's at least in development. So this story comes via Deadline. Now, before I tell you this, because it's not an official source, I would mention that Deadline is one of those sources that's actually really reliable. I mean, their entire business model relies on their access to Hollywood sources, so they're not likely to give you false rumors or speculation, etc. However, they are also not Alex Kurtzman, and they are not Nicole Clemens, and they are not, official press releases from Viacom, CBS, or Paramount Plus. So please keep that in mind when I explain what's going on here. So Deadline has reported that CBS Studios and Secret Hideout, which is Alex Kurtzman's company, are in production on, they're working on Star Trek, Starfleet Academy, whatever that means. Their sources say that it's Starfleet Academy. It's sort of backed up by Alex Kurtzman at the Strange New Worlds TCA panel, saying that there's another show that they're working on, but he didn't specify any details. What he did say at the event was, and I'm quoting here, we have to think several years out. We're thinking about knowing we'll want new shows on the air 2 or 3 years from now, so we have to start planning those now. There's a bunch of things in development that are starting to take shape, and we're super excited about it. So that sort of backs up what Deadline have said. Their sources have said that the co-creator of Absentia, which I have not seen, whose name is Gaia Violo, is reportedly attached to the project. And that's all we've got for now. Little personal side. I am so excited for a Starfleet Academy potentially series, because that's a, like Prodigy is tapping into the children's sort of area. We've not really gotten into a young adult series, and we've always had to kind of guess about what Starfleet Academy was like. I think there's a tremendous amount of potential there, especially because we've had a lot of conversations in the fandom over many years about what type of person would be allowed into Starfleet Academy and what type of person might be allowed to graduate from Starfleet Academy. So I think potentially there's just a huge amount of storytelling that they could do there and potentially open it up to a new audience. So that's probably the most exciting news for me this week. I'm curious to hear what you think. I know a lot of people like roll their eyes at the idea of a Starfleet Academy show, but I think it's fun from a fan perspective, but also commercially, I think it's really strong. Anyhow, um, right. So that's really the big news from official news this week. But before I kind of move on to the rest of today's show, I do just want to point out that I published on Friday, finally, listener Kim's Star Trek story. Now, this is a slightly different way that we've done things in the past. Those of you who've been listening to the show forever know that I do Star Trek stories, from time to time, on video or just through the audio podcast. And this time I had the opportunity to do something that was really on the web and showcasing somebody's kind of their own personal Star Trek story. And I teased this on the show a few weeks back, excuse me, and I finally got it out on Friday. So if you are interested in kind of reading through someone's, perspective on how they interacted with the fandom for many years, and what kind of stood out for me from Kim's story is that, this is a thing that was nowadays, if you want to get the attention of a star on Twitter or anywhere, you tag them on Facebook, you tag them on Twitter, and hopefully they'll retweet you, right? Or hopefully they'll like you, or, oh my God, if they follow you, you know? But back in the day, obviously, we didn't have social media. So you wrote to the studios, or you wrote to the fan club, or you wrote to that actual person. And it wasn't uncommon that they would send you back a signed photograph. And some of what Kim's got is just exactly that, from having written to the folks at Star Trek and then receiving things back from them. These are slices of history that things just aren't done exactly the same way anymore. And I would highly recommend, especially if you're a younger person who wants to know about how Star Trek fandom kept going, sort of in the 70s and 80s, definitely look through it. But also there's just cool stuff. Like she got George Takei to sign a paper bag. That one's great. There's one of the infamous Susan Sackett letters from that you would get back if you wrote to Gene Roddenberry. It's just a great treasure trove to see, and I can't just go and read it. Anyway, it's on the web, dailystartreknews.com, and of course I'll leave a link down below. It's Kim's Star Trek story, and I hope you enjoy it. I really hope you enjoy it. All right, so that's all the news for today. What do we got? Right, so up next in the show, we're going to do a little show and tell. Not entirely, it's down there. I'm not sure, it's a little bit big. So I'm not sure how we're going to do this, but we'll do it. A little show and tell, and of course, the poll. So the poll is in the chat right now. If you're here with me live on YouTube, and if you're not here with me live on YouTube, you can do that poll over on Twitter as well. So we'll check out the results of that in a few minutes. Before I do show and tell, I do just want to remind you all that this show is supported by Patreon. So if you like what we're doing here and you want us to keep it going, please consider making a monthly contribution from just $1 a month, or with a yearly discount, it's about $10 a year. US. So I know there's people from all over the world, so I don't want to leave you out. Anyway, that's at patreon.com/daily Star Trek news. All right, so let's do some show and tell. Right. It's big. Well, it's okay. It's not that big. This is I'm trying to remember exactly where I got this. So, for those of you who can see it, it is, it's the Star Trek 50 Artists, 50 Years, 2018. It's not focusing very well. There we go. 50 Artists, 50 Years, 2018 hanging wall calendar. Now, I think the reason that I ended up with this was because for many years, and less so recently, but for many years, everything that I did in my house was organized on a giant wall calendar. I used to get one from where I used to work because they used to have their own calendar, and I used to write in all of our, like, with an actual pen. I used to write in all of the things that we needed to remember and all of the dates and places that we had to be. And so I was always on the lookout for a new calendar, and then I bought this one, not realizing that, like, it's really, really not suitable for, like, writing anything on. I'll show you. So as you can see, you really can't, like, it's there's nothing you can write on it, so it's pointless. However, you may wonder why I still have a 2018 wall calendar here with nothing written on it. And it's because these are pieces of art that were done for the 50th anniversary in 2016. Now, if you happen to be at STLV or if there were other conventions at the time, they did a big display in one of the rooms with different artists doing different pieces of art specifically for the 50th. These are all in here, and they're in poster form, which you can't really see, but that's perforated. And it's perforated at the top. So theoretically, one day I could take all of these out and put them in frames, and I keep thinking I will, and then I never do. So there's that one. Let me see if I can find some of the ones that I really, really love. That's another one too. I'm not going to show all of them, I promise. Here's like a stylized picture of Spock. This next one, I actually have this one as a print in my bedroom because it's so beautiful. This is a picture, it's sort of a watercolor of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy inside a transporter. And then it's kind of around them as some, constellations that sort of show the delta and the 50 and so forth. Ooh, look at this one. Okay, that's a bit of a space seed there. That's great. Anyway, yeah, it's this lives sort of in the corner of my room, and I keep thinking that I'm gonna get all the posters out of this and do something with them, and I never have. What you might want to consider, it's possible that they actually still do this one, because, like I said, this was 2018, so obviously it was beyond the time that it was for the actual 50th anniversary. So you probably can still get it. Anyway, there you go. 50 artists, 50 years. Whoa. I'm having focusing issues on my camera today. There we go. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a tremendous amount of fun. Robert Kaiser in the chat asks, this collection had 50 artworks, so the calendar has only 12 of them. Yes, it's possible that others have other ones. I don't know. I haven't actually looked. That was pretty much the last year that I did the wall calendar thing. Since then, we've all gone digital. So, that's what it's like. Okay. All right, so the last thing today before I close out the show, and then of course we'll stick around for a little bit of chat later here in the live stream, is that I want to look at the poll results. So I'll give you guys another minute or so. Ooh, one of the options in YouTube right now has 47%. Anyway, I'll give you a couple minutes on the YouTube one, and I'm going to pop over to Twitter and see what Twitter has to say. All right, so to remind you again, this week's poll I'm sorry, I amuse myself with these polls, and I know they're so dorky, but I do amuse myself. Thank you for putting up with me. Right, so this week's poll is, what's the next Star Trek ship they should make into an audio drama, following on from Raffi and Seven's No Man's Land? So, the results, the early results on Twitter, with 38.5% of the vote. In the lead is Kirk and Spock. There's a tie for third place between Janeway and Chakotay and the USS Reliant. And then sadly in last place with 15.4% of the vote is Crusher and Picard. Now that poll on Twitter is going to be open overnight, so if you haven't had a chance to vote there yet, you still can. Share it with your friends. I would love to hear what you guys think. And then here, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll on YouTube to... All right. You guys are awesome, by the way, because it stayed at 47%. That makes me happy. All right. So again, what's the next Star Trek ship they should make into an audio drama? In the lead here on YouTube is Janeway and Chakotay with 47%, which I think is actually legally binding that Simon and Schuster need to make that one next. I'm just saying, because it's coming off of Prodigy. In second place with 29% is the USS Reliant. 17% is Crusher and Picard, and Kirk and Spock is only 5%. A little bit different on Twitter versus YouTube today. So interesting results. Anyway, thank you guys for voting in that. That was a tremendous amount of fun. And don't forget to check out, you can pre-order No Man's Land from Amazon right now, and it will come out on February 22nd. You can listen to the clip audio drama right now on YouTube. Right. Well, that is it for this week in Daily Star Trek News. Thank you very much for listening and being here. And just a reminder that if you're listening to this on the podcast today, you are cordially invited to come and join us on YouTube. We do that every day. Sorry, not every day, every week. Used to do it every day. Every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube. That's youtube.com/Daily Star Trek News. We have some extra chat and show and tell and all that other good stuff. So we would love for you to join us. Also, remember that you can find all of this week's stories, including the ones that I've covered on the show today, plus some other ones. We've got all of the links to the original sources so that you can read them for yourself if you want. There's all sorts of pictures, videos, and other things on there, as well as our weekly events listing, our history, and a few trivia questions every once in a while. That's all at dailystartreknews.com. And of course, if you're missing the daily fix, you can sign up for the daily newsletter at dailystartreknews.com/contact. Right. Thank you again for listening. This show is produced by me, Alison Pitt, and all of today's stories were written by Chris Peterson, Marina Kravchuk, Jack Brown, T. Rick Jones, and David Powell. Today's show was supported by people like you through Patreon. You can find out more on how you can add your support at patreon.com/Daily Star Trek News. Anyway, thank you for listening. I will be back next week with more of the Star Trek news that you need to know. I'm Alison Pitt. Live long and prosper. Okay, all those podcast people are gone. How is everybody today? I'm going to have a look through. So listen, I don't know if you've been looking at what's going on Twitter, but man, that question about the overdramatic starships has really kind of taken off, and I can barely keep up with all of the responses. We just had an entry come in, the Pac-led clump ship, which is great. I think somebody was spot on with basically every ship in Discovery. All of them were very overdramatic, but I gotta give props to the Galaxy X, the Enterprise Dreadnought 3-nacelle wonder from All Good Things. I just, that ship... That ship is It's like somebody went, "Ooh, how can we make the Enterprise D like really tough and like really, yeah, right? Like, ooh, let's put another nacelle on it." I mean, all right. All I'm saying is that a man came up with that idea. All right. Anyway, go and check that out. It's really fun. Tell me what your overdramatic starship is. Um, let's see. Right. Okay. Prepare for a little dead air while I scroll back and say hi to everyone. Let's see. Shout out to Anne, Christoph, Robert, Paul, Dr. Mohammed Noor. Nice to see you in the chat. Hello. Uh, BC says cut and print. Yes. I'm sorry, BC. I still have not replaced the batteries in my moon. It's up there. I have no idea what the moon phase is. So if you could let me know, that would be really helpful. Um, uh, Shout out to Todd, always says nice things in the comments. Hello, Cerulean Blue. We absolutely do not mind at all. I feel okay speaking for everyone here, saying that we do not mind anyone new joining us today. The more the merrier. People here are really nice, actually. I remember we had one time we had a troll, and they just went away because this is not a troll farm. We don't really do stuff. Anyway, yes, wall calendars, guys. Honestly, the reason I've stopped with the wall calendar is because there's not a convenient place in my house to have one up, like in that central location. In my last house in Marlborough and Wiltshire in the United Kingdom, we had a spot in the kitchen that was right by the door, and it was kind of central. So I just kept the pen there and we wrote everything down, and it was really easy. You could see it as you were leaving the house or as you're coming in or whatever. It was super easy. And now the place that I'm in now, the kitchen's kind of at the back of the house, and it's got like it's hard to explain. There's no central location for something like that. So also the kids are big enough now that they all have Apple devices, so we just share a calendar. It's a little different. Anne says, it's crossed my mind to submit my Star Trek story / first contact story. Of course, for those of you who've been watching for a while, Anne and I actually did an interview, which was kind of her Star Trek story. But if you wanted to put that in writing, yes, please, because I would love to have more of those on the web. Okay, real talk for a second. There's some crazy discourse going around on Twitter today. It's actually been going for a couple of days, I think. And it comes around, guys, if you are on social media in the Trek fandom for any length of time, you will know that all of these dramas come around on a periodic basis. One of these days, I'm going to start recording it and be like, oh, wait, it's the gatekeeping drama. Yes, it happens every 3 months or whatever. And apparently somebody was being problematic with somebody because they haven't watched all the Star Trek episodes. Real talk, I have not watched all the Star Trek episodes. Most of the people that I know have not, and it does not in any way affect how much of a Star Trek fan you are. If you have watched one episode of Star Trek and you liked it and you want to talk about it, that makes you a Star Trek fan in my book. Not every piece of Star Trek is everybody's cup of tea, and that's totally okay. It's like literally the whole point of Star Trek. So there's my 2 cents on it. Don't come around my neighborhood gatekeeping because you will not be happy. Just don't do it. Anyway, I could rant for a really long time. It makes me really, really upset to see anybody giving anybody a hard time about how they choose to enjoy their fandom. It's like there are better things in life for you to concentrate on, especially if you're a Star Trek fan, man. We're supposed to be here. We're supposed to believe in like making things a better place. And there are so many things you can do. You can donate to the Hollywood Food Coalition. You can get caught up on what's going on with the Pop Culture Hero Coalition. There are all sorts of charities and initiatives, or just, don't do anything even Star Trek related. Leave your house and go work at a food bank or something. all of these things are closer to learning the Star Trek message than attacking anybody on Star Trek because they didn't know the name of the third guy from the left on the 4th episode of the 3rd series of Enterprise. Like, anyway. We are all under a lot of stress these days, and if you're like me, it's very easy to get angry. So, you know, just cool it and be nice. Anyway, getting back to the comments. Um, so there's a couple comments here about Starfleet Academy. Paul Wright points out that the Starfleet Academy thing has been talked about for what, 30 years at least. Yeah, I hope so. It would have been perfect on like, you know, back in the day, the WB, now the CW, which is going back to they're selling it off again or something. Yeah, why didn't we do that forever ago? It'd be so good. Mohammed points out that we're going to have a lot of 3-letter things starting with S, SNW, SFA, S31. That's part of the reason I don't do the little abbreviations, but mostly it's for SEO purposes. Nobody searches for those, so, you know. BC points out that they sort of did Starfleet Academy with JJ Trek #1. Yeah, they did, and I think I would love to see more of that. In fact, I feel dirty for saying it, but J.J. Abrams would probably do a really good Star Trek, Starfleet Academy series. I think most Star Trek fans would probably hate it, but it would be really good. I want to see like Center Stage crossed with Starfleet Academy would be my ideal thing. Anyway, yeah, okay. Keeping going. Back, BC, listen, so BC always joins the chat with Alan Moraine, and I love it. I love that episode of Deep Space Nine because it's ridiculous. Yeah. Okay, so looking at some of the results of the poll, this is kind of interesting. So, Robert Kaiser mentions, I was always happy that JC never got together. I find relationships of anyone with their boss as inappropriate. Now, here, what I agree with you. I don't think that workplace romances are a good idea. I don't always think you can help who you are attracted to, but I feel like, especially with, you know, a commanding officer, it feels like that is just fraught with issues. That was always a problem that I have had in the past in Star Trek because, you know, we're focused on like a crew, especially like TNG. It's pretty big, and there's families and stuff. But you know, are you able to make good decisions and fair decisions if you are romantically involved with somebody that you work closely with? I don't know. I mean, maybe we can believe in a future where we're more enlightened than that. Or maybe we can believe in a future where you should treat your coworkers who are your loved ones differently. I don't know. You know, it's science fiction, so anything goes, but you're right. That kind of thing always made me a little uncomfortable. I am so happy that there is an active fan fiction community because I think that's wonderful. But on my screen, I'm not sure. Um, Anne says, will the Raffi and Seven audio drama be available on Audible? I do believe that it's on Audible. I am not sure. Amazon owns Audible, so that's probably where it's going to come out. I'm not 100% sure. I'll leave a link down in the show notes here. Hopefully you can negotiate to it. If not, drop me an email, Anne, and I'll see if I can get you a direct link over to where you can get it. Um, um, Todd, you're late to the party on the pole ship. Yes, I meant shipping. Like relationshiping. I tried to come up with some like really out there ones, but I'm not very into the shipping community. See also what I said about workplace romances. I'd be curious to see, like, I know about Kirk and Spock, um, and I know about Garashir. That was a really popular one. If any of you guys are interested in the Garrick and Bashir ship, of course they did. What is it called? I can't remember the name of it. They did a two-part audio drama with Sid City Social Club last year, and it's available on YouTube. You can go and watch it back. If you go to sidcity.net, you can find it there. And yeah, I mean, I don't even know if Garrick and Bashir counts as a ship because like they played it straight up. Like it's like saying Troy and Riker is a ship. Um, if you watch them doing that live audio drama, they have such chemistry. It is weird. It is odd to see um, Alexander Siddig and um, I have a really bad problem with names. Garrick, being those characters and having such chemistry across a Zoom call. Andy Robinson, having such chemistry across a Zoom call, like in a pandemic. Like, was it 25 years later? It was amazing. Go and watch it. It was good. Here's a couple of good takes. So Cerulean Blue says, I always considered Janeway as Mama Janeway and didn't want her with anyone. No one was good enough for her. Um, I think that I agree with that. I not necessarily so much with the mama part, but Janeway was always a role model to me in terms of how you lead a team, right? Not so much like a boss, but like as a leader. She brought her people along and she inspired them and she kept them in line at the same time. I really don't think she would be interested. It just, lizard babies aside. Yeah, I don't know about that. And of course, Robert Kaiser points out that there's always the holodeck. I'm not happy with the delete the wife. I went back and watched that recently. The moment where Janeway asks the holodeck to delete the wife of a character in a holodeck program was really like a really interesting character moment for her, personally. No, okay, Squidblade, which, by the way, hi and welcome, because I don't recognize your name, so if you're new here, hello. Squidblade points out, can you select the one you love to go on a suicide mission knowing that they're the only one qualified for the mission? Now, they kind of touched on that in TNG a little bit with when Troy had to take her exam to become a commander, and she had to order Geordi to his death, basically. Sorry, spoilers. They were not romantically involved in a relationship, but if I recall correctly, she struggled with that issue. And yeah, I do think that's problematic. I think you have to, I've never worked on a submarine or anything that is such close quarters as they do on a starship for any long period of time. And I've certainly never worked in any kind of industry where you could have to send someone to their deaths. But I imagine a close personal relative relationship is a lot harder than a colleague. So I don't know. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's the same if you get to know those people at that level, for that long. Maybe it's no different, and therefore, sure, have a relationship with whoever you want. I don't know. Anyway. Yes. Robert, yes, you and I are on the same page with that episode. I loved that. I loved watching Troy be just There is so much about Star Trek, and part of the reason that I really, really like it is because it's applicable. I mean, it's essentially a workplace drama in a lot of ways. And there are a lot of things that they taught us in some of those earlier, classic era Star Trek, especially TNG and Voyager for me, that I find applicable to a workplace now. And watching Troy, who, they kind of imply that she's the guidance counselor. She's the soft skills one. She probably gets paid less than everybody else. And I loved them for developing her character at the end to recognize the fact that she's a Starfleet officer. That was really great for me. Um, Christoph, you rock, by the way. Christoph poses the question, who would Tuvix have hooked up with if he had lived longer? That might be after the overdramatic starships winds down, we might have to ask that of the larger social media community. Whoa. Speaking of Tuvix, kind of, did you guys see Aaron J. Waltke's post about the Prodigy coin? We'll probably do a quick story on this later this week because I just saw it over the weekend. We can go and do some sleuthing if you like. So Aaron J. Waltke, who actually follows this show, so hi, is a producer of Star Trek Prodigy, and Mike McMahon had posted a picture of the prototype model of the USS Cerritos, the XL version from Eaglemoss, and Aaron J. Waltke had replied to him saying, well, we don't have a starship, but we do have a coin. and so he posted a picture of the coin with two things in the background. Number one, a Star Trek Picard doll, like one of my, not doll, action figure, who appeared to be holding a lightsaber. It's like, I don't think, so I have Kylo Ren over here too, sorry guys. I don't think I can get rid of his little, yeah, no, that Picard's got his phaser real stuck in there, but it's like he took a lightsaber and stuck it in there. That was funny. But he's also put on, in the background of this picture is a notepad that says like season 2 notes for presumably Prodigy, and there's a little is a little note that kind of implies that they might be considering Tuvix. Now, listen, I don't think anything that he wrote on that little pad of paper is in any way serious. However, it is funny, and I appreciate the level of trolling. So, anyway. Yes, so Robert Kaiser is on top of it. Be careful. I'm going to hire you here really quick because, yes, the many loves of Tuvix, and yes, the Twitter thread between Mike McMahon and Aaron J. Waltke was pretty hilarious. So it's good. All right. Oh, you guys, check it out. We got an intruder. Yeah, I got rid of him. Never mind. It always makes me happy when that happens. Within, because not really. Don't. Oh crap! I wish I never said that. But it makes you feel like you've made it. Anyway, yes, it's yes, three Vix and 4 Vix, following on from 2 Vix. So between Prodigy season 2 and Christoph's idea of 2 Vix and who he would hook up with, it sounds like we're gonna get a really interesting Prodigy season 2. Actually, yeah, I don't usually talk about the shows on this show because it's not this is, I try to keep it out of spoiler region so that everybody can participate. Um, I loved the ending. The the second part of the mid-season finale of Star Trek Prodigy season 1 was really great. They've done some really interesting things with those relationships between the characters, and, the way that they've set up the sort of central conceit heading into part 2 of season 1 is, it's both, it's a small story, which I like. It's about people and it's very cool and I'm excited for it. So if you haven't, now's a really, really good time to catch up on Star Trek Prodigy because they've now done the first 10 episodes and they're going to break now until late summer, fall time. So go and watch it. It's a good time to binge it now and you know that. Okay, right. That is it for today. Thank you guys for sticking around for as long as you have while I ranted about varying things. Thanks for chatting in the chat. I'm glad that I finally get to do that. So, yay, it's nice to see you all here. Um, yeah, that's all I got. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you get a chance, please hit the like button. It helps me on YouTube and share it with your friends. Once again, next week it'll be, same bat time, same bat channel, 2 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube. And yeah, thank you again for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.